Hello, everyone, and welcome to another mini sky tonight. So I thought it would be fun to talk about what constellations and planets and things that you could see on All Hallows Eve. I know many parents and kids hopefully will try to safely be able to go enjoy some of the traditional festivities of getting some treats and goodies from their neighbors and have a good time despite the circumstances we are all facing right now. So if you find yourself you're trying to do something fun on All Hallows Eve, allow me to suggest looking up at the nighttime sky and checking out a few of these objects. So the program I'm using is called Stellarium, and I'll leave a link in the description below of where you can download it for free. And it's a fun planetarium program that you can use and play with and interact with to learn what's up in the nighttime sky. It even tracks satellites and meteor showers and a bunch of other items in the sky. So here we are close to around about 7:30 at night, and the sun is just starting to set. So if you look over here towards the southwest, you'll see these kind of two bright stars close to the horizon. Those are actually not stars at all. They're actually planets. This one right here is Jupiter, and this one right here is Saturn. So you get to see two of the big gas giants in our solar system close to the evening sky. But the other fun thing you can do with the program Stellarium is to zoom in on these objects. So let's center it in the screen and let's zoom in on Jupiter. And there we go. Oh, pardon. That's one thing you have to be careful of when using the program Stellarium. You have to make sure you pause or else the sky will still keep rotating. So here we are with an up-close and personal view of Jupiter. And on All Hallows Eve, you'll be able to see 3 of the 4 Galilean moons. Chances are the 4th Galilean moon is probably behind the planet. In fact, one of the things you could do to find out which moon is which is if you go down here, you can put on planet labels. So yeah, as you can see, Io is right behind Jupiter at the time, so cannot see it. This Amalthea is another moon of Jupiter. In fact, Jupiter has 62 moons and counting. Amalthea is another large moon, but it's really difficult to see compared to the Galilean moons. And they're called the Galilean moons because they were first discovered by Galileo Galilei. So here we can see to the right Europa, and to the left we can see Ganymede and Callisto. So you get to see 3 of the 4 Galilean moons. Another fun thing you could do is zoom in on the moons themselves. So let's center here Europa, and let's zoom in on Europa. Pretty neat, huh? The fun thing about Europa is that astronomers are really interested in it because there's potentially a liquid ocean on Europa. On the surface, it looks like a solid block of ice because when it's experienced the water's out in space, it instantly freezes because of the coldness of space. But those dark cracks that you see, those kind of like dark lines, they change over the course of time, which hints to astronomers that there may be material underneath the surface of this ice. And the reason being why the ice is cracking is because the water is flowing and breaking up the ice. And then as water rises up through the cracks, it freezes again. So astronomers believe that there could be a liquid ocean underneath this layer of ice on Europa. But looking at Jupiter really close and personal, oh, forgive me, it looks like Io is in front of Jupiter, not behind. So needless to say, it's kind of difficult to see Io compared to Jupiter, which is a huge gas giant planet. In fact, Jupiter itself is so big that 1,400 Earths could fit inside Jupiter. It's a huge planet. In fact, all the rest of the planets in our solar system could fit comfortably inside Jupiter. It's that big. In fact, one of the big features on Jupiter that is incredibly amazing is this huge red spot right here. It's a tropical storm. Not to be confused with a hurricane, this is actually a tropical storm because it's a high pressure zone that's surrounded by low pressure zones. And it's a huge storm that has existed for thousands of years. This storm is so big that all the terrestrial planets, Earth, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, all fit inside this storm. And the winds have been known to clock roughly around about 400 miles an hour in this storm. So imagine having a huge, for example, imagine having a hurricane on Earth that has stayed in the same spot, has high winds, and has yet to relent. That's what's going on Jupiter. It's crazy. So let's zoom out on Jupiter and let's take a peek at Saturn really quick. So let's center in on Saturn and zoom in. So right away we get to see some of the moons of Saturn. In fact, currently with the new Cassini-Huygens mission, we were able to detect that Saturn has over 80 moons. It potentially has more than Jupiter. It's a new, so that's the great thing about astronomy, is that as we are exploring our universe and we're looking out towards our solar system and even beyond, we're discovering new things. So I can remember back in the day having to change my textbooks from Pluto being a planet to now it's no longer a planet, and we're discovering new and interesting objects that are similar to Pluto. So astronomy is, I like to call astronomy the science of extremes that continues to change. So I know I'm excited about it because I'm curious to what the newest discovery would be. Nonetheless, back to Saturn. So with Saturn's, all of its moons that you can definitely see right here, let's bring up the labels again. One of the moons that astronomers are really interested in is this moon right here. It's called Titan. In fact, why don't we center in on it? Let's zoom in on it. Yeah, I know it doesn't look like much in this picture. Titan is the only moon of Saturn to have an atmosphere. In fact, it's the only moon in the entire solar system to have an atmosphere. That's what makes it so neat. In fact, Titan is one of the moons that we have sent a probe to other than our own moon. So we have officially landed on another moon that's not ours. And we've taken pictures of the surface where we've discovered like oceans and possibly river flows of ethane and methane and a few other different features. In fact, I highly recommend going to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory website and looking up images from the surface of Titan. All right, let's look back at Saturn here again and let's zoom in on it. Now, Saturn is a beautiful planet. In fact, it's nicknamed the Lord of the Rings because of its beautiful ring system. Now, all gas giant planets have rings. It's just Saturn's happens to be the most epic and most visible that we can see. The dark area that you see in the rings is what is known as Cassini's division. It's a natural gap created in the rings. It was called Cassini's division because it was first discovered by Cassini himself, who is an astronomer. Now, the rings are incredibly long. In fact, if you were to take the fastest car in the world, in fact, I was told recently that the Bugatti Veyron lost its crown to being the first one of the fastest cars in the world as of right now. If you were to take the fastest car in the world even and fill it up with a full tank and were to go around this imaginary racetrack, it would still take you 50 years to make one lap, assuming no pit stops. So it's a really long system. But for as long as it is, it's really exceptionally thin. In fact, the average thickness of the rings is the same distance between the two goalposts on an American football field. So it's exceptionally thin. Now, it may look like the rings that are solid, but they're actually not. They're composed of particles and rock, some as tiny as a grain of sand to boulders as big as a house. And they're all going in orbit around Saturn. Now, these don't contribute to the extra moons that Saturn now has. They can be designated as moons, but they're technically not. But one of the fun facts I always enjoy about Saturn is I sometimes like to call Saturn the rubber ducky of the solar system. It's because the average density of Saturn is less than that of water. So the average density of an object is when you take an object's mass and divide it by how big it is. So the average density of water is 1 gram per cubic centimeter. So a pretty good standard. The average density of Saturn itself is 0.6 grams per cubic centimeter. So it's, even though it's incredibly large, it's relatively light for its size. So if you were to stick Saturn in a huge, gigantic swimming pool, Saturn would float like a rubber ducky. All right, let's zoom out and actually take a look at a couple constellations along the way to our next planet. So let's come down here and bring up some of the constellation lines. Now, Jupiter and Saturn right now are next to this teapot-shaped constellation. This is the constellation Sagittarius, but I like to call it a teapot because it kind of does look like a teapot to me. You see it's lit, and you see the handle, you see the spout, and the pot itself. So if you can't see a half man, half horse kind of guy out of this, it's okay. Just pretend it's a teapot. That makes a whole lot more sense to me. Nonetheless, let's actually show you some constellations that you can visibly see. So if you look straight up, you'll see these 3 bright stars that kind of form a triangle. This is what is known as the summer triangle or the navigator's triangle. So this top star of the summer triangle is called Vega. And it's a part of the constellation Lyra, the lyre, L-Y-R-E. It's a harp. The bottom left star right here is called Deneb, which is a part of the constellation Cygnus, the swan. And this bottom right star right here is called Altair, which is a part of the constellation Aquila, the eagle. And let me bring the constellations back so you can definitely see them. I sometimes like to call Cygnus the swan the Northern Cross because it kind of does look like a cross in the sky. And yeah, it kind of does look like an eagle, like with its wings spread out, but sometimes I've seen a stingray out of this. That's what the great thing about asterisms is that you can name it whatever your heart's desire and what best suits you. Down here to the left of Cygnus, you kind of see this big, huge square. And you kind of can see the square pop up right here. This huge square is a part of the constellation Pegasus, the cosmic winged horse. Yeah, I can't quite see a cosmic winged horse out of this. So I like to refer to this as what the famous cowboy poet Baxter Platt called it. He called it the great baseball diamond in the sky. And I like to think of it as like a stellar commemoration to the All-American pastime. It starts rising in the east come beginning of the baseball season. Come World Series, it's high in the sky. So right here, we can kind of see a baseball diamond. So if this is home, here's first, this is second, this is third, here's your pitcher, here's your catcher, and there's the umpire right next to him. A couple guys hanging out of the dugout. There's the shortstop and the rest of the outfield. Nonetheless, if you go from home to first, and if you pass the right fielder, and if you pass the center fielder, and you leave the stadium, you run into this fuzzy object right here. That fuzzy object is the farthest thing you can see with your unaided eye. It is 2.5 million light years away. and it's the Andromeda Galaxy, our sister galaxy, which is 2.5 million light years away. Bear with me. Let's see if we can click on it. There we go. Okay. Center it on the screen, and let's take a peek. So this is the farthest thing you can see with an unaided eye, and it's 2.5 million light years away. It's not the nickname our sister galaxy because it has a similar spiral barred shape to us. And in fact, it has two smaller galaxies that are in orbit around it. This one right here and this little tiny guy right there. So it even has two dwarf galaxies that are in orbit around Andromeda itself. In fact, the Milky Way galaxy, the galaxy that we are in, has two dwarf galaxies that orbit it as well that we can see. But you have to travel further south below the equator. They're what are known as the small and large Magellanic Clouds. They look like clouds in the sky, but in actuality, they're galaxies that orbit our galaxy. And of course, over here, you kind of see these two bright objects. One of them will be blatantly obvious. It'll be the full moon. In fact, on All Hallows Eve, we get a blue moon. So kind of an eerie effect to basically have October 31st being a full moon and it's a blue moon. But you also see this kind of orangish star. That orange star is actually the planet Mars. So let's take an up close and personal view of the red planet. Now Mars is often called the red planet is because it kind of has this deep red orange color to it. That deep red orange color is created by the soil on Mars, because in its soil it has a ton of iron. And well, like what happens to iron here on Earth that's left outside, iron mixed with water and air or carbon dioxide, it becomes oxidized or it rusts. So Mars is a cold, rusty planet. And I do emphasize cold. The average temperature on Mars is very cold. I think the hottest temperatures it ever gets on Mars, like Sahara temperature desert temperatures, is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's really cold. So that's why when people are traveling to Mars, it's going to be important for us to have the proper suits for them to be able to explore out onto Mars. One of the unique surface features on Mars that you can start to see on All Hallows Eve if you have a very powerful telescope is this long crack right here. That long crack is called Valles Marineris, or Mariner Valley. It is the grandest of Grand Canyons. It basically looks at our Grand Canyon and says, "Aw, how cute." And in all seriousness, it's as deep as Mount Everest is high. So you can literally take Mount Everest from Earth and stick it in Valles Marineris and it would never skim the surface. It's wide enough to fit the entire city of San Antonio in its basin, and it's so long that it stretches from New York to Los Angeles. It is literally the grandest of Grand Canyons. And astronomers believe that it was possibly once created by water. So we're hoping to do some more investigations with that. And of course, if you see these two little stars in a powerful telescope, those are actually the moons of Mars. It has two captured asteroids called Phobos and Deimos, Fear and Death. So these are some of the constellations that you can see just shortly after sunset, enjoying some of the nice holiday breeze and enjoying the festivities of Halloween. And to be able to go out, even though if you can't go enjoy knocking on neighbors' doors, you can at least go out and enjoy the nighttime sky. If you have any questions or comments, leave it down in the comments below. If you have a topic you would love for me to cover over, leave it down in the comments as well. Also, parents, if you're looking for something for fun for your kids to do and to get some educational material out of it, FutureReadySA.org has an amazing site that allows your kids to be able to explore unique topics in a gamified sort of way. And they earn digital badges. In fact, one of the badges that I worked on was Astronomy Plus that you can definitely check out for yourself. So I'll leave a link in the description below for that as well. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, never stop learning.